So Mary, what is it about this event conference that attracted you to be here?
Well, I think just having an emphasis on all different kinds of writing, and that there's many ways that you can get your words in print. A lot of the traditional conferences, which I've taught at almost every one, is only the traditional route, only the publishers that you kind of know about, that you would see at Barnes & Noble and look at the spine and go, yeah, I know that publisher. That's typically the way most conferences are geared around or oriented around. So this one talks about self-publishing and print on demand and ways to do things that are a little bit different. And that just kind of excites me and gets me interested in helping other writers get to that place. And
so you've been writing now for how many years? How long? How many books have you written?
Yeah, I've written about,
in one form or
yes, 23 books in 7 years.
In 7 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would indicate that you're like a writing machine. You're a disciplined person who's pumping out. Do you write multiple books simultaneously? Have you ever done that?
I have done that because I write fiction and nonfiction, so I can actually juggle both because it's two very different genres.
So you are able to, but you have, are you one of these writers that gets up every day and writes X number of words, or?
I typically, if I'm on deadline, I'll tell myself that I need to write between 2,000 and 3,000 words a day.
Really?
Yes.
That's like a job.
Yeah, it's my job. So, and then I'm a blogger, so I blog every day, 5 days a week. So I also have that to do, and then I'm pretty active on social media too. So I'm creating content for that as well.
So you're writing, I mean, a chapter can be anywhere from, I mean, I know it can be 5,000 words or more, but a lot of times now it's 3,500 words.
Right.
So you're getting close to writing a chapter a day.
Pretty much, pretty much.
So you can get through a book in a month?
I can, or 6 weeks, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that works for you?
It does, but it's come from all of that work that I've done in the past, where I've just written miles and miles and miles of words.
So talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned when we were talking earlier that there's like this, the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour.
Right, yeah.
How did that work for you? How did that play into your life?
Well, I actually, when I birthed my first child, something happened, like something with the placenta happened, and I wanted to birth a book. It's just two things happened at the same time. And so I just started to work on the craft when my kids were just little bitty, and I was diapering them and taking care of them and stay-at-home mom and doing all that. And whenever they took naps, I would write. And I just wrote. And that really helped me later to, when I did start really getting serious about, okay, I'm going to get published. By God's grace, I'm going to get published. Right. All of that work just came back into play.
Who inspired you to exercise this discipline? Was it somebody in your family, a mentor, or a teacher?
Not really anybody. My father, my biological father, died when I was 10 years old, but he was an English professor.
Okay.
And he was a poet and a literary genius. So I had kind of that ghost.
I'm sorry, but what makes somebody a literary genius?
I have read his words, and I don't have words for them. They're just.
This is your grandfather?
My father.
Oh, your father?
Yeah, was an amazing writer.
Wow.
Yes. So I did kind of have that hanging over my head, but he was not a Christ follower, and so his words were a little skewed.
Yeah.
And so there has been kind of this part of me that has wanted to kind of be a redemptive element of something that was skewed.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And so a couple of things I'm interested in. You worked with a lot of writers, and I'm interested in knowing what are the kinds of questions they ask you and what are the kinds of answers you give them.
Well, they kind of want to know, like, what's the gist? Like, tell me the secret to getting published. And there's...
You mean getting an agent to respond?
Yeah, exactly, all those things. And a lot of people who are just starting out are super naive, and they just think, well, if I write a book, then it will get published, which can be true in today's day and age.
Right.
You could upload your Word file right now and have
right.
a book in your hand 3 days from now from CreateSpace.
Right.
But usually they're asking, how do I get traditionally published? And there's a lot of naivete. So unfortunately, I kind of have to be the bearer of bad news that typically it takes a long time. You have to find your voice. You have to be an awesome writer. You have to know how to write a proposal. You need to understand the dynamic of knowing people in the industry and being savvy about the industry and the business. And so it's not just, hey, I'm an awesome writer. It's all those other things. You have to be savvy.
Are people discouraged by this sometimes? I mean, it's a lot.
Yes. because they want to, I have the story of 10 years of writing in obscurity, unpublished words, but they want to hear about the first conference I went to where I met my agent and then sold 2 books within the first 6 months. They want to hear that part of the story. They do not want to hear, well, I wrote for so many years, but that's part of the journey, and that's an important part of the journey.
You mentioned an interest in social media. Now that's been a new development in our lives in the last 5 years, 10 years, 4, whatever. And as a result of that, it changes the rules somewhat in terms of visibility.
Yeah.
But what have you learned about how to use it in its nascent form now that we're all learning? What have you learned about how to use it, and how do you advise writers?
Well, when I do talk to writers, and I'm also a novelist, and novelists tend to be more in the cocoon, and they really don't typically want to hang out in social media. They just want to sit in their place and write their book. Right. But when I talk to nonfiction authors, they get it a little bit more. But for me, I think the gist is doing what you love. So for me, as kind of this extrovert and one who loves to interact with people so much, I'm so fascinated by people. To me, social media is a blast. It's so much fun. It's great to meet people and then to physically meet them in person. People you've only seen on this tiny little screen, you know, and then you're like, hey, we're best friends. And I actually like that. I think it's really fun, and I love the idea of building a tribe and really building a tribe
means what to you? Where do you get this idea?
Well, I got it from my BFF, Seth Godin, who really isn't my BFF.
I know.
But that'd be cool if he was.
BFF.
I know.
Hey,
really
Seth,
cool.
little shout out.
Yeah. How you doing? Check it out. Yeah. So Seth and I are best friends.
I actually met Seth Godin.
See?
I went to a seminar that he didn't want me to be at, but I broke in.
You broke in. That's awesome.
Which made him.
I want to break in.
Which made him like me more because I broke into his own seminar.
That's right, because you're being like all out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, I'm going to do that. That's great advice. So I read his book Tribes, and I've been marketing for years and just trying pass-fail, trying to figure out this whole marketing, you know, thingamajig and all of that. And when I read that book, I was like, yes, this is exactly the way I want to do this. I want my 1,000 rabid fans, which you've heard about probably before, and the long tail and all that. So this idea of actually, you know, just working and loving people and kind of rallying them around, for me, it's a tagline that's live uncaged. So to help people live uncaged lives is so exciting to me.
Well, I read that, and what does that mean to you? Talk a little bit more about. I know, it's all right. It's like a painting, but what does it mean today?
What does it mean to you? It means that I grew up in a home, and I have a past that I didn't want to duplicate. And I run into people all the time with very difficult stories. And they often are held captive by what happened back then. But we serve the great I am in the present tense. And he wants to do awesome things in our lives right now. And so my ministry is to help people live that freedom-infused, uncaged life. And that's my passion.
And besides offering people your writing, like you have a new book coming out as we speak, about secrets of publishing, 11.
That's been out for a while. Yeah.
Well, tell me about that book, that people might be interested in knowing about that one.
Sure. I self-published that because it's a niche market. Not a lot of people are going to buy a book about the 11 secrets of getting published. But it's basically a download of everything I've learned in the publishing journey, how to get published, the ins and outs, particularly traditional publishing, although I've done the other as well. So it's in there. But also it talks about writing and how we need to have strong nouns and verbs and kill our adverbs and all of it. Like I've got the English teacher part in there, but I've also got marketing, how to blog, what's a book proposal, all those things, like the whole, all of it's right there.
What percentage of the people that are in your tribe are women?
1 bajillion%.
Really?
A lot. There's a lot. And if you go to conferences, it's typically about 80% women, 20% men. So that, in terms of the writing audience, and even readers, it's that same ratio. So it's not much different than that.
Yeah, very interesting. So what other ways can people access you besides reading, you know, or you're getting your advice, that type of thing? How do they get in touch, you know? Help me, Mary.
I do private counseling sessions. And
very expensive, by the way.
Yes, $1,000 an hour. That's how I make my money. No, I am not a counselor. They can find me on my Facebook page or on Twitter, but mainly my main dialogue goes on my blog, because I'm there, you know, working every, you know, the whole every day per week. And I write about living uncaged. What does it mean to be free?
Okay.
And all of my books really kind of, if you look at them, they all kind of revolve, especially the fiction, revolves around that theme of being authentic, being your true self, all of that. And then the nonfiction definitely is moving that way as well. Started with parenting and then went to Christian growth.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask you about Esther, who is essentially putting on this event, this conference.
Queen Esther.
What is it about her? What is it about? You work with a lot of professionals in this business. What does Esther have that's interesting or unique, or?
I like that she's kind of on the outside a little bit, like
outside of what? Who's outside?
Like when I say that she's my agent, she is my literary agent.
Right.
A lot of people don't know her that have been in all those little circles, you know, of all those writers' conferences.
Right.
But she agents awesome people.
Yes.
And she's a bulldog, and she's very tenacious and knows how to sell. And that's really what as an author, I'm not as proactive on my own behalf.
Sure,
I'm a compliant author, and I want to do everything to make everyone happy, which is good, but it's better to have an agent who will go to bat for you. So that's, I think, what she brings to the table in agenting. And then in terms of just her expertise, she's been in every aspect of publishing, and she has a saleswoman mind.
Right.
And because she has that, that's what's been really attractive to me.
Yeah.
So I haven't always thought that way, and now that I'm thinking that way, I'm starting to find a little more success.
So just along those lines then, having published as much as you have, talk about how you think about your own career in terms of the long tail effect, just economically, how, because many people say, I got to have this hit book, and that's one model, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't happen for most people.
No, most people don't.
You are pursuing a different path. Talk about that and how you're thinking about that.
I'm in it for the long haul, and I also know that I'm called. I know this is exactly what I'm supposed to do, so I'm being obedient by writing the books that I write. But at this point, it's about volume and writing things that, writing the kinds of books that people want to pass along to their friends, or that they want to read in a reading group or study together. And so really it starts with writing great content. And now I've expanded that to what is available on my website, and little products and giveaways and an email distribution list, and just ways that I'm connecting with my tribe.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was fun.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you. I didn't tell any deep, dark secrets. Darn it.
I'll get to that later.
All right.